friend, Gordon Smith, whose energy with the mission of getting Colonel Lakin on this broadcast with Paul Jensen is something that Sarah and I really appreciate. He says Lieutenant Colonel Lakin is a modern-day Paul Revere. To incarcerate him is to put the Constitution in a recycled trash bag. I appreciate Gordon's restraint.
Gordon, yeah, he's very with it.
Here's the wishful thinking I was referring to a while ago. I remember when I was a boy, 10 years old, and wanted to go swimming, and Mother said, it's going to rain. Every time I looked out, it looked less and less and less like rain. Now, we may have had 5 inches of rain a half hour later, but I'm talking about what it looked like to me, who, as a boy who very much wanted to go swimming. Now, turn the page. It seems to me that because of what you've done, no touchdown yet, no home run, but I think you have elevated the attention and the sympathy and support for those on Colonel Lakin's side. Didn't CNN apologize, in effect, by rebuking Tobin's intemperate rant on Colonel Lakin?
Yes, that's absolutely right, and we're very grateful for them on doing the right thing in that regard. Let's not harbor anger at them for doing the right thing. It's over and done with, and we appreciate Mr. Tobin retracting the statement on orders from the brass at CNN.
Yeah, but it just seems... Look, 6 out of 10 Americans have their doubts.
And also Colonel Lakin has become the spokesperson, even though he's very shy about it, become the spokesperson for all of us who cannot do what he's doing, who cannot go to court, who cannot say we will not serve, aren't in a position to take a stand like that. So thank you to him for being out there.
Yes, indeed. And let me read you what Lieutenant General McInerney said.
By the way, forgive me for interrupting. He commanded, was it the 7th Tactical Air Force Wing in Europe? He was qualified to carry nuclear weapons, commanding planes with nuclear arms. That means he is in a position, or was in a position, of supreme trust.
Well, let me back up a little bit and start with that paragraph. As a practical example, this is General McInerney speaking. From my background, I recall commanding forces that were equipped with nuclear weapons. In my command capacity, I was responsible that the personnel with access to these weapons had an unwavering and absolute confidence in the unified chain of command, because such confidence was absolutely essential, vital, in the event the use of those weapons were authorized. I cannot overstate how imperative it is to train such personnel to have confidence in the unified chain of command. Today, because of the widespread and legitimate concerns that the President is constitutionally ineligible to hold office, I fear what would happen should such a crisis occur today. In refusing to obey orders because of his doubts as to their legality, Lieutenant Colonel Lakin has acted exactly as proper training dictates. That training mandates that he determine in his own conscience that an order is legal before obeying it. On the other hand, it is also perfectly appropriate that Lieutenant Colonel Lakin's conscience now stand the test of a general court-martial. Indeed, he has publicly stated that he invites this court-martial, and were I the convening authority, I would have acceded to his wishes in this regard. By thus stepping up to the bar, Lieutenant Colonel Lakin is demonstrating the courage of his convictions and his bravery. That said, it is equally essential that he be allowed access to the evidence that will prove whether he has made the correct decision. For all of the foregoing reasons, it is my opinion that Lieutenant Colonel Lakin's request for discovery relating to the President's birth records in Hawaii is absolutely essential to determining not merely his guilt or innocence, but to reassuring all military personnel once and for all for this President whether his service as Commander-in-Chief is constitutionally proper.
Yeah, and that's not from what we buck privates used to call a latrine lawyer. That's from a retired lieutenant general.
Eloquently said.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
3-star general, and I can't think of a better way of saying it.
All right. Now,
it actually I have an emotional response to that, very strong emotional response to that, because it is so honorable for him to have said this and in this eloquent way. You can tell I'm emotional. It's just brilliant and loving and caring.
If there were anything more fun than discussing what's going to happen in next Saturday's college football game with our buddies, it was having one of the or two or three of the team players sitting around the coffee shop discussing with us. Now, here we've got the two at the summit, Lieutenant Colonel Terrence Lakin and his civilian attorney, Paul Jensen. Let's game this back and forth. The Army, the military, has in the past paid off people like Colonel. I know they've simply said, "Okay, get out of here. Why use dynamite when insect powder will do?" They've dropped charges or dropped the assignment. Help me out. You know what I'm talking about more than I do.
Yeah, there have been a couple of other instances where people were saying that they would disobey deployment orders, and the Army simply rescinded those orders.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're talking about a court-martial scheduled for October, right?
Well, the court-martial has already begun. The trial portion of the court-martial will be mid-October. Mid-October.
That's about 2 good weeks from what they call an election. I think that at that point, for the military authorities, who, after all, are under civilian control, Defense Secretary Gates, and above him President Obama, for them to allow the force of military vengeance rather than military justice to descend upon Colonel Lakin, I don't think that would redound to their benefit. I can't figure out what they're likely to do. Maybe you can help us out, because you're the ones who are going to be not in the student section drinking soft drinks and hard drinks and cheering on Saturday afternoon. You're going to be out there on the playing field, and I'm sure you've discussed this with each other. What outcomes can we legitimately speculate about, and what do we have to rule out? I wish the whole thing would just go away. We'll be right back. Maybe I don't.
No. I want this to come to fruition.
Yeah, we'll be right back. I'm Barry Farber. Sarah Pence, my co-host, is with me, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin, and Paul Jensen, his attorney on our Newsmaker line. I'm Barry Farber. Sarah Pence, my co-host, is with me, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin, and are we proud to have him on the air? And are we unstinting in our opinion? That doesn't speak for Tomas, our studio producer, doesn't speak for the CRN Digital Talk Radio Network or our sponsors, but it speaks fully for Sarah Pence and me. We are just overjoyed at the idea of having you on the air to discuss this at close range. To me, the vanilla solution, here you are denuded of a defense by a judge who says, what? Discovery? Records of the president's birth? School? What are you talking? That could embarrass the president, not in my courtroom. I think that to have a heavy court-martial verdict would not be a wise move in this political climate for this administration to permit. What do you all say to each other?
Well, without going into what we say to each other, let me say to you that the prosecution has pulled out all the stops to pursue the maximum penalty, which on the charges filed would be 4 years in the penitentiary at hard labor.
Disgusting.
I don't, but we live in a country composed of people. We're in a democracy. We have a political, or some people say a republic. Don't get me into that. But we have here a midterm election. Democrats in deep trouble. Republicans licking their chops. People who don't like the administration on the ascendancy now. And it could be that Colonel Lakin will get sucked up into an upsurge of popularity
His victimhood may become a matter of great public sympathy.